Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to week 3 of Virtual Salesianum. I hope everyone and their families are doing quite well. I've just been catching up on some of the grading from class, so please check your grade books. I'm going to try to be short, sweet, and to the point in this video. My mission is twofold. One is to review where we are in the World Wars unit to this point. So to review weeks 1 and 2 of this virtual world, and then talk about week 3, because weeks 3 and 4 are a little bit funky with Easter going on. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to walk you through a few different resources we've got here. First things first, let's talk about World War I. So World War I began in 1914. As the two Khan academies discussed, there was a lot of different things that all came to the surface at the start of World War I or in the summer of 1914. Some of those things, so part of this video, I'm going to stop, I'm going to give you a pause and ask you to pause the video and do something along with it so that you're testing your knowledge. Some of those things are on the screen right in front of me: nationalism, militarism, the alliance system, imperialism, and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. In a moment, I want you to press pause in the video and I want you to do two things. First, I want you to put these causes in a rank order, as far as most important to least important. And then secondly, I want you to put these causes in chronological order. So build a timeline as far as these things are concerned. So go ahead and pause that video. Okay. So hopefully you were able to at least get through the chronology of things. Essentially what we've got here is the alliance system building from about the 1870s on through 1910 with different alliances based in that Khan video, forming at different times throughout Western Europe. At the same time, sort of the alliance system would start it, and then at the same time you have nationalism, militarism, building and building and building. Nationalism is pride in one's country, and militarism is the building up of one's army. And then lastly, you have imperialism, the trying to conquer other countries and build an empire, bubbling up to July of 1914 when Gavrilo Princip assassinates Franz Ferdinand. So here's another stop and think. So take a look at this picture and name that cause. What do you see here? Did you guess militarism? Militarism it is. Here, typically what we see, such as the military parade we see in the picture, is the flexing of muscles or the showing of one's strength, one's military strength. There's a great chart in your textbook, I'm going to try to pop over to here, that kind of focuses on this military strength. If you look here on land, you can see Germany was by far the strongest. In sea, Britain was definitely strong, but very close second would be Germany. So you can see Germany's really been building up their military. This is as of 1914 at the start of World War I. Another fun thing, and by fun, I don't mean fun, another thing that was going on that was common was the use of U-boats in Germany through their navy. So U-boats were those underground boats or submarines, and what they were doing was essentially sneak attacking, which was prohibited. So they're violating international terms and attacking other countries. The one that we've all talked about is the sinking of the Lusitania in 1915, which is a British ship. What do you see here? What's the cause you see? Did you guess alliances? You're correct. You can see there's the building of secret agreements behind each other's back. And what was most common was making multiple alliances at once. So a country like France, for example, might be aligned with Britain, but might also be aligned with Russia. And then the question becomes, what does that mean for Britain? Is Britain now aligned with Russia? How about this cause? What do you see here? Did you guess imperialism? If you did, you are correct. Here you see a map of the empires in 1910 that existed. So the Austro-Hungarian Empire would be front and center, dead center of the map. How about this one? Did you guess nationalism? I want you to guess nationalism. Well done, gentlemen. So just a quick review, which person here assassinated the Archduke Franz Ferdinand? Was it Gavrilo Princip, Kaiser Wilhelm, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, or Woodrow Wilson? Well done, it was Gavrilo Princip of the Black Hand. Lastly, if only there was an acronym to remember the causes that started World War I. One last thing to note about World War I. World War I was a war of many firsts. There were machine guns used for the first time, long-range cannons, gas warfare like mustard gas, submarines like I mentioned, airplanes for the first time, very makeshift airplanes, and tanks as well. So at this point, I'm going to actually hop over to your textbook and talk through a few things, some of which would be the causes we discussed, the main causes, as well as the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Secondly, the causes specific to America, so that would be the Zimmerman note and the sinking of the Lusitania. And if you look here at some of the key pieces, this is another great chart that kind of talks through some of the deadly firsts that existed in World War I. Trench warfare is another. Some of you were researching trench warfare last week. There's the first flight, the first planes. This is a biplane, and there were biplanes and triplanes during the First World War. But everything was open air and exposed. If you look here, here's a great outline of, first you see the Central Powers, Austria-Hungary and Germany being aligned with the Ottoman Empire to the southeast. But then also, if we're talking about that Franco-Russian alliance, right, the alliance between France and Russia, you can see that the Central Powers had to fight on two fronts, both on the eastern side and on the western side, where most of the fighting took place. And this overextended their military a great deal. So a couple other things I want to just pop around and talk through. I'm going to just quickly move my chart over so I'm keeping on track, but at the same time really talking through to you some of the things that were typical of the First World War in America. So if we give me a moment here, gentlemen, bear with me, and I will be able to share my screen again. One last little tidbit, we'll talk about the American side, then we'll fly right on through to talking about what you're expected to do this week. So some of the big firsts in America for the First World War, the Selective Service Act in 1917 established the country's first military draft. And as a result of that, you had many different things arising. People started to speak out against the draft, which was something that was frowned upon and then later outlawed in 1917 by the Espionage Act. So similar to what we saw in the early 1800s, the Alien and Sedition Acts. Now you had the Espionage and Sedition Acts in 1917, which banned talking bad about the government's decisions with regard to the war. Another theme that arose, and we'll take a look at this when we cover World War II, but the Committee on Public Information was effectively the government agency that was pumping out posters and things like that to persuade Americans to support the war. Lastly, if you look here, there was a huge rise in American production. Many urban life, I guess I should say, was transformed because many factories were now geared toward this idea of total war, this production for the war effort. Really got everybody behind the war effort. and started things booming as far as the American economy is concerned. So now let's jump over and let's talk about what you're expected to do in this lovely week 3. Hopefully the weather, by the way, is going to get much better. 2 things I want to explain to you. First, in week 3, you're only going to have 1 lesson because week 3 ends on Wednesday, and we're going to take a break from Holy Thursday through the Easter holiday and resume a week from then. So week 3, in essence, is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. You have 1 assignment, and it's all right here. So what I'm asking you to do is watch this YouTube video as you are, then to read 19.3, which talks about the end of the war. So this week we're looking at how World War I ends. When we come back from Easter, we'll look at that interwar period, the time period where a lot of the dictators who will go down in infamy, for lack of a better phrase, arose to power. So I want you to read 19.3, and I'm going to actually show you this chart because I think these things are quite helpful in organizing your thought process, especially when we can't do this together. As you read 19.3, I want you to both keep a timeline of some of the events you read through that lead to the end of the war, but then also keep a chart. So effectively, your notes should have 2 things in them. They should have a chart that details Wilson's ideas for peace, and also a timeline that goes through some of the things that were discussed in section 19.3. That's for you. You are not turning that in. What you are going to be doing after you do those things is complete the TED Ed lesson that's linked below that talks about the Paris Peace Conference and the Treaty of Versailles. I want you to lastly review the Quizlet deck of World War I terms that's linked right here. I think that'll be a great job in addition to me. Hopefully, Quizlet will be a little more clear in reviewing some of these key themes that should stick with you throughout this World Wars unit. And then finally, in step 6, compile all that information together and put together a 2-paragraph, well thought out, well cited response to the question below. So the question below says, what problems did the peace treaties solve? And then what problems did they create? Spoiler alert, they created some problems. So again, last reminder, this assignment is due by Wednesday at midnight. And then I want you to take a break, relax, get some rest, and hang out with your families. Again, I hope everybody is staying happy and healthy during this virtual Salesianum time. Miss having you guys in class, and hopefully I'll get to see you pretty soon. All right, bye for now.